BulkLoads Podcast, your number one resource for everything bulk freight trucking.
All right, that's the concept.
Hey guys, Jared Flinn with the BulkLoads Podcast. Got Tyler with me?
What's going on?
I'm just drinking this full throttle coffee.
Dude, you're going to get jacked up again. You're ready to go.
So I had it on last podcast. Yeah, Hammer Down, a good friend of ours. Yeah, you have to go back to the last podcast. But Joseph will put the link in the show notes. But yeah, what better way to support our industry than to get some, I said full throttle, the Hammer Down Coffee Company.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Justin Sensenig with Flint Creek Transport. It's one of his companies. But yeah, check the link out below. Get you some of that. It's really good coffee. I don't know if these guys are making this extra strong in here, but like it's like drinking motor oil. Like maybe that's part of the experience.
Yeah. Justin's also coming on the podcast here soon, right?
Yeah.
And he'll kind of go over it. So make sure to keep your eyes out for that. I'm excited to hear that.
Yeah,
one.
we'll have some of this hopefully at the conference, which is really coming up. We'll talk more about that probably after at the end of this show. But yeah, get some of that coffee. Again, Justin doesn't pay us for sponsored. We just want to support him. He's a BulkLoads member as well. Also want to make mention when I was at Matt's few weeks ago, I ran into Daniel Wilker with Rocket Pig. He was gracious to give me a hat back here. You'll see up there, but I just want to acknowledge that Daniel listens to the podcast every week. Thank you, Daniel, for listening to the podcast. We got your head up there. Here's a picture of Daniel and I at Matt's. So yeah, fellow listener, they run a lot of scrap metal and has a fleet of trucks and has done really well. So congratulations to you, Daniel. And again, appreciate you being a fellow BulkLoads member and a listener of our podcast.
Yeah, thanks for the support. Another company that we want to highlight too is Loeffel Holes. I think I'm saying that right. Loeffel Holes Trucking.
Is it German?
I don't know. Maybe.
Sounds German.
Out of Riverdale, Nebraska. They have been members since 2012. So, I mean, really since the beginning. Yeah. So Joe's going to throw that picture up. Really sharp pictures and rigs on here. They got the cool sunset going on in the background. So thank you for sending those in. Thank you for being a member and supporting us. And hopefully we get to meet you guys at the conference.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, today's podcast, Brock. Bo Prock. Sorry, I got that wrong. I have Purdy stuck in my head.
We just call him Mustache Man.
Yeah, Mustache Man. Bo Prock with Eagle Logistics out of Purdy, Missouri will be on this podcast. I've had the pleasure to meet Bo several times and with Eagle Logistics. And yeah, this is a great podcast. They run a fleet. Company was started by just a one truck. He was a mechanic and starting adding onto the fleet. We'll talk about that, but really, really good show.
Yeah, Bo specifically has a really cool story because he started out, he talks about, how he kind of dropped out of college and then just got hired on cleaning the shop's tools and stuff. But then he just really moved from being a diesel tech to a shop supervisor to a dispatcher, accounting, brokering, sales, and then now he's the operations manager. So it's just really cool how he's really seen every single aspect of the company. But he also dives into cool things about just his leadership, what he's really learned over the years, and how he's really going from being a leader in the organization to cross-training everyone. And it's just cool how the company structure is really molding and how they're really going to get to their goal of 50 trucks by 2025.
Bo is such a visionary, and you have to have someone that in an organization that can really look and cast that vision, but really figure out what you need to do to get there, put everything together. And we're going to talk about that. And I think any organization, if you're out there, we realize not everybody wants to grow, but the people that are out there that do want to grow their business, this is a podcast you want to listen to. It takes intentionality out there to really cast that vision out there, but then to take the steps that are hard to see daily, but will pay dividends down the road. We do a lot of goal setting here. We have a lot of expectations, but visions that we have out there to grow in all of our organizations. So Bo really puts a pretty bow tie on this, explaining it. So with that said, here is my conversation with Bo Prock of Eagle Logistics. Bo, thanks for coming on.
I appreciate the offer, man.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
Little hour drive, I guess, from
A little
Purdy,
longer
Missouri.
in the rain today, but not too bad.
Yeah. Well, I have been hounding you, I think, for probably 6 months to come on the show. So thank you for graciously coming up and being on. But we're going to talk about your company, but more importantly, you're in charge of operations with them. You've been in there for a while, and we're going to dive into that. I think there's going to be some really good takeaways and nuggets to give to our audience, especially for guys that are maybe at that size where they're looking at hiring an operations person, or they think they need to do that, or what they need to be looking for that. But let's talk about Eagle Logistics. You guys have a great story. I mean, we know this and we say it all the time. Every business, every truck company starts off with one truck or one person and grows. You know, today, as we speak, I think you guys are around 35 trucks overall.
Yep, real close to 35.
But yeah, so I'll let you talk, but kind of talk about the beginning of Eagle Logistics.
Okay. So Eagle actually started in 2013. Mike Bennett is the owner. I've worked with Mike since 2005, and he started Eagle Logistics in 2013. And we really started off not in trucking in 2013. We had the building that we had had for a long time, and we opened it up to basically just farm implement repairs. And that area is mostly farmers. So we worked on everything imaginable on tractors, hay equipment, trailers, anything we could get a hold on for probably 6 months to a year. And then one of Mike's friends, guys that he knows pretty well, needed some help in trucking. So we started hauling windows for them on flatbeds. And since then, we've done reefer. And then we got into dry van in 2016 and pretty well have stayed there, except for a few outliers that we've done here and there, but been really big into dry van and just growing the fleet with that.
You were telling me, though, even go back before that, like you actually started working for Mike, like cleaning tools.
Yeah.
Talk about that. I mean, you just graduated from college,
and I didn't graduate. So, I didn't even talk about that. So my fourth semester in college, I actually went to college with Mike's oldest son, who me and him were best friends in high school and went to college together. And my fourth semester, I was super excited because I finally got to take a business class, and I knew that's where I wanted to head. And we had been in that class for probably 3 or 4 weeks, and we got on the topic of different businesses and was just kind of openly talking to the teacher. And I asked him what business he had run, what business he had business he had started. And he said, well, I've never owned a business. I've never ran a business. He said, I went to school to be a teacher and became a business teacher. And I was brokenhearted. Like, I was like, this is not the guy I want to learn from. So I finished out that semester, and Mike had just built a truck shop in Purdy, and they were moving into it. And I was looking for work for the summer. And he said, listen, I need like everything clean top to bottom. I need my tools cleaned, my equipment cleaned. And so I took that job. And at the end of summer, when I was supposed to go back to college, I was just like, I just don't want to go. Like, this isn't something I want to do.
Yeah.
I don't like it anymore. And so he was gracious enough just to keep me on, sent me to refrigerated school that first year, which I didn't know anything at that point. I didn't even work on my own vehicles. Like, I had no idea what I was doing.
When you say refrigerated school, like reefer trailer refrigeration?
Yeah, it was
school?
Actually Carrier Reefer School. The brand Carrier, they have those schools. They last a couple weeks, but it's like intense, like long days, 6 days a week. And they basically teach you how to diagnose and work on their units. So he sent me to that, and then I just stayed. And he, over the years, has just gave me a little more and a little more and a little more, up until I think he actually declared me the operations manager probably in 14 or 15.
Okay.
And then been doing that ever since.
Yeah, that's cool. Talk about, the evolution of Eagle Logistics again to 35 trucks today.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you started with a couple. Like, at what point did really Mike realize, like, hey, we're going to need an operations guy to really run this?
I think we were in the 10 truck neighborhood where he wanted somebody to actually carry that title and be more responsible for really looking at the numbers and trying to bring him really good information as far as decisions that he needed to make on customers, lanes, bids. I think I probably started out more on the shop side because that's what I'd done for him for years. I was a diesel mechanic.
Yeah, and I guess that's what I think when I think of, and it can be different and everybody can when you set a company up. But when I think of like operations, I think you're more on the shop carrier side, equipment side.
Yeah.
I don't think of operations that much on the customer side, as far as rates and lanes and bids and all that stuff. But
And so I think that has a lot to do with size. So whenever we took on our first trucking company or trucking customer as Eagle Logistics, um, I think it was, me and Mike, one other mechanic, and then we had a lady in the office like handling books. So, um, we would mechanic on the trucks and trailers to keep them going, and then find a customer and we'd go talk. I mean, we just kind of had to do it all,
Yeah.
there for a little bit. And the customer deal has just kind of always been something that I've liked, so I've kind of stayed hooked to it. I like stuff like this. I like coming and talking and visiting with people, and hopefully learning something new. And so far, our customers I've been able to keep real good relationships with, so I've just kind of stayed hooked on that end.
so on the operations side, do you keep a pretty close pulse on all the drivers, or do you have obviously? I'm sure there's a dispatcher that's dispatching those trucks. Kind of what's your relationship with them versus dispatch?
So with a lot of them, when I was in the shop, we had laptops on our toolboxes and would dispatch the trucks. So we've still got 4 or 5 guys that were around then that are still around. But Mike's always been huge on like open door policy. Like if a door is closed in any of our offices, like there's something major going on. Like otherwise the door stays open. And drivers are in and out all the time. And I try to make a conscious effort, which I think is huge. Like no matter what, whether you're the janitor at a trucking company or the owner, making sure that you have contact with the other people in the business, I think is huge. So I always try to make sure that I'm talking, to the drivers as they're in and out, and I'm still the point of contact if there's a real problem. I'm that point of contact usually.
Talk about even recruiting, because we were just talking about that earlier. Like that, you're doing a lot of that as well. Or I mean, you're working on growing the company. We'll talk about this more, but like trying to get another 5 to 10 trucks into the fleet. But you're responsible for that, right?
Yeah. So since the middle of last year, I've actually become the HR guy too. So
Okay.
I've got to kind of delve into that and try to figure some of that out, which is interesting. I like it. It's different. But we've got me and then a guy that works primarily in our dispatch and brokerage. He helps me a ton with the recruiting efforts. We've got like 10 Street and Indeed, and then me and him will sit there and sort through guys that we want to bring in for interview or proceed forward with. But I still do a lot of that, but I've got some really good help now that's helped kind of go through all that.
Good. You're wearing a lot of hats. And I like what you said about Mike even having that open door policy. What are some of the other maybe rules or things like as far as meetings go within your organization that I guess keeps you guys tied together as a team?
So we have that I set in on personally. We have a kind of a money meeting once a week, and then we have a dispatch / customer accountability kind of meeting that we have once a week. And 2 totally different groups of people, in those meetings. And we, just kind of go over everything. We try to keep everything really I don't want to say transparent because it's not really transparency that we're looking for there, but just to make sure everybody has all the information on what the company is needing to do or wanting to do in the next, from here's what we're doing tomorrow or here's what we're doing this quarter. And keep that, on a big table. I think, having 8 people in a room talking about a problem is way more effective than just one guy sitting at his desk trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing too, you kind of mentioned Mike's style and kind of you working underneath him. Talk about a little bit of just the kind of the chain of command. Cause I think when you get to a certain size, there's gotta be a chain of command. There's gotta be the rules that like, hey, if you have an issue, you got to talk to this person, talk to this issue. I know we're getting into the weeds there, but I think it's important because if you don't have these established in an organization, like stuff won't get done.
Yeah.
Or issues can, become bigger issues.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
hey guys, did you know from the time you're born until the time of your passing, you will spend 4,000 weeks on average on this earth? So I said that today I'm reading this book called 4,000 Weeks, How to Live Like a Mortal. Many of us, are we living our lives like we're immortals or mortals? I think there's times that we kind of reflect on the preciousness of life, especially at funerals, special events for our children, the births of our children. But are we putting that in perspective every day of our lives? So this message, I'm not trying to sell you any service, not trying to do anything, but just to get you to realize, are you doing the things that matter? Are you focusing your time and energy on things that are going to be kingdom driven on this earth, things that are going to have an impact and serve others on this planet? So yeah, my challenge for you today is just to put that in perspective. Have the voices that are going to be encouraging and helping you. Myself, I try to limit the amount of news and content that I listen to as far as stuff that's going to not fill me up and focus on the things that will fill me up and benefit to others out there. So yeah, my challenge for you today is, man, think about how many weeks you have left. I have roughly 2,000 weeks. I kind of think of myself as halfway out. So how many weeks do you have left? And are you doing things to have an impact and make a difference in this world? So that's all I got for you. God bless.
The majority of the calls from the truck drivers go to dispatch first. And we have Mike's younger son, Chris, who runs the dispatch department. So he fields most of those calls. And those are going to be everything from, hey, I'm running a little late, or hey, I've got a tire blown, I've got a light out. And then usually where the phone calls start coming to me is, hey, I've got a super mad customer, something went wrong. Or, hey, we've got a major mechanical issue because I spent enough time in the shop that I can deal with those. And then from there, if I talk to the customer and they're really, really mad, then we go get Mike and say, hey, you at least need to be aware of what's going on here. But we've got the right people in place now. With dispatch, we've got, I think our least experienced person in there has 6 years in dispatch and trucking. Then we've got the gentleman that I was talking about that helps me with recruiting. He's got almost 15 years now, I think, in trucking. The new lady we just hired is just over 20 years in trucking. So we've got a ton of experience there to where most of those small problems get taken care of really, really fast, and they don't go up the chain very far before it's already handled.
Yeah. At the size of your company right now, when you're looking at operations and the hat that you're wearing, like, if you can kind of describe, like, what are most of the challenges that you're facing, like on a week to week or monthly basis? Like, I guess, I like to say I get up every day and love to come work, and I really do. But like, for me, I can name off 3 things, like the things that like I'm always battling, or the issues that I'm always like spending a lot of time on my plate.
Yeah.
What consumes, I guess, most of my time would probably be the better way to say it. But like in your current role, what would those be today?
So drivers are always going to be the biggest, I think. I mean, it is always just a daily battle to make sure that every truck has a driver in it. It has been since I started, and I don't know that will ever change. I think
Just with drivers leaving and then having fill in.
Really, I mean, the last we figured turnover rate last year, and I think we were setting at like 4% turnover rate, which is 4%. Yeah,
That's incredible.
it's really, really low. Our big problem has happened going from a 15 truck fleet a year and a half or a year ago up to 35 trucks has been, buying a truck and then having to go out and find a suitable driver for it. Which we've made benefits better. We've raised pay. We've bought newer trucks, trying to attract those people. But we hit that really weird area in like 20 and 21 where just nobody was changing jobs. Like everybody was locked down. Nobody was looking for a change. And so that's definitely the biggest struggle. Aside from that, with this new like HR and compliance that I took on last year, trying to learn that had become my new biggest deal. Whenever the lady that was handling that left, she went to be with her family in Tulsa. They'd had a job down there, and so she left. And the day she left, she brought in this like stack of manuals, and it was huge. I was like, "What's all that?" And she was like, "Well, that's your OSHA compliance manuals." And I was like, "Holy cow!"
I cringe just thinking.
Yeah, and I mean, she's got tabs on the outside of all of them on stuff you need to know, and I was just like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to get involved in this or not. But I mean, that's consumed my time. I wouldn't call that a struggle because it's been a really good learning opportunity. Probably something that I should have got more involved in and learned 5 years ago with my role. But then past that, there's kind of a weird size of company deal. And I'm sure you've seen that at some point to where you're growing at a rate, but you don't quite always have the employees to cover the amount of work, but you don't know that you've got enough work to hire that extra employee.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
And we've bounced off of that several times in the past year and a half where we, if we hire somebody, it's probably only a 20 hour a week job, but the poor suckers that are already working here are putting in an extra 20 hours, trying to keep up with everything. So that's really that balancing act of that has been really kind of tough. But so last year I probably spent like 3 months, like watching leadership conferences and different things, trying to figure some of that out. Cause I still wasn't real sure, how you're supposed to handle that. Like what do you do in that situation? And I mean, I watched hours and hours of just videos and TED Talks and, all this different stuff, trying to go, what is that missing piece of the pie that we just haven't found yet? And after at least 3 months of doing that, and I just hadn't come up with anything yet. And this is, I may never get asked back, but it's kind of funny because we were sitting at home one night and just flipping through Netflix trying to find something to watch, and we came across this show, and I was like, it's a doctor show, let's watch that. And it's this show called New Amsterdam, and again, not important to the story at all, but it's about this doctor who comes into this hospital and things are just a wreck, and they basically hired this guy to turn the ship around, get us upright.
Yeah.
Things are bad. And his whole philosophy on that was based off the phrase, how can I help? And he worked on instilling that in everybody around him. Like if you've got, the old, if you've got time to lean, you've got time to clean, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So that was kind of his spin on that. Like if you've got time to do anything, like go find somebody and ask them how you can help, like work together. And so I brought that to my team one day in one of our weekly meetings. And everybody, kind of laughed at first. And I said, but think about it. I come in all the time and go, hey, do you need any help? Well, in order for you to answer that question, if you do need help, you're admitting to me, yes, I need help. I can't do all this. If I come in and say, hey, how can I help you today? I'm telling you, hey, I'm going to help whether you like it or not. So you better give me some guidance so I don't mess your stuff up.
Yeah.
And like instantly, like 3 weeks into that, everybody was just automatically cross training. And so we had a couple of our dispatchers that all of a sudden kind of knew a little bit about billing, or, and not that they were doing the billing, but maybe there was a ton of copies or emails, scan-ins that needed made. So they were in there scanning stuff for, AP or AR, and vice versa. Our AP lady got caught up and came in there, and all of a sudden she's setting out paperwork for drivers or something. So we hit this kind of cool deal where we went, maybe part of the problem was that we just weren't helping each other enough. Maybe your job isn't just dispatcher. Maybe it's team member, which is what I've started, putting on everybody's applications. Like, you're applying for a team member. We don't know what you're going to do yet. You may need to go help in the shop tomorrow. We don't know. But most of everybody has really enjoyed that, because they're getting to do something a little bit different, learning something, building their own portfolio, their resume, hey, I know a little bit about AP now. So that's been something that we've really kind of adopted and pushed up front in how we do business in the offices now.
Yeah. But I think like what you just said though, is like pushing that across the whole culture. Mm-hmm. And now that's not just one person, but everybody's adapting that. And there's some that we've done here in even our office. Like, we're very big on, I read this, it was the Zappos book, the Zappos shoe, but like they had this philosophy on just creating insane customer experiences and success. And they coined the same term, wowing someone. But that's one thing if you come to our office, you'll see there's posters everywhere, but it's like, hey, how have you wowed someone today? And it can be as easy as, picking up somebody's lunch or sending a hat in the mail. I mean, it doesn't matter, but like that's something ingrained in ours. But I like how this, like, it's pushing everybody in the culture. And I want to talk a little bit more about this, because I think this is kind of even the heart of operations and running a team, is like really making sure and changing that whole culture. Yep. Like saying, hey, we're going to stop doing it this way. And people don't like change. Mm-hmm. I heard that over and over, even this past weekend at the Mid-America Truck Show. But like, hey, we're going to make these tweaks, and over time, it's going to have a big effect on our culture.
Even though they hurt in the beginning, a lot of times, like it can be painful. Yeah, real painful. But I think as long as you've got a good team, and I've met lots of your guys here. I mean, you've got a good team, and as long as you've got a good team and they can see the end goal, I think they're willing to suffer, some of those pains of change to get to that end goal. Yeah. And that's what we've got at Eagle. I mean, we've got a fantastic staff. And bringing stuff like this to ownership, going to Mike and saying, hey, I think we need to adopt this or that, or we need to concentrate more over here to make some necessary changes. He's just always been all for it. He's
that's awesome.
Very, very willing to let people go out on an idea and figure out if something will work or not.
Yeah. I'm going to talk, you were saying even now your roles are expanding to maybe even getting out and doing more customer visits and sales. Talk about that, because that's like a different evolution of maybe your role, or expanding your roles, going out there and being more face-to-face with customers, growing that book of business. Talk about that.
So for the last couple years, we've really been set on we needed to get to 50 trucks. Like that's kind of where our target area was. And we saw, I think we ended up with in the neighborhood of 10 to 12 additionally at the last half of last year, which brought us up to 35.
So, and I want to stop real quick, because this is good. The goal for the organization is to get to a number of trucks. So it's not necessarily, the revenue is going to come, and the trucks can produce this, but it wasn't like, hey, we're going to hit, I'm just throwing a number out, not your number, but like, we're going to hit $50 million in revenue this year or whatever. Yours was just saying, like, across the company, we have a goal. We're going to get up to 50 trucks.
Yeah. Cause I think we've got pretty comfortable knowing we can make X amount of revenue per truck. And the bigger deal for me and people get really frustrated with me because I love Excel spreadsheets, and I want to run everything off like averages, and I'm cost per mile. Like I want to get down to like tenths of a cent on stuff.
So you have all these Excel spreadsheets broke down, and you can see, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. And we have most of them on like a shared platform to where, dispatch can get in and, go, okay, here's how we've been performing over the last couple weeks. And then we can kind of bounce off of that and go, hey, if we're going to send somebody to Pennsylvania the last time, we went out there and did good, we went from Pennsylvania to this area and then came home, and gives them a little more ability to perform well. But I got off on a tangent.
We're talking about hitting 50 mil or hitting 50 trucks.
The big thing I think about 50 trucks is the way you spread out the overhead at that point. It's a whole nother, because in trucking, I mean, you're looking at, here's your overhead, here's how many trucks you have, this is how much each truck's going to have to make to cover your overhead and have some profit on top of it. And 50 trucks, spreads that out, pretty far. I mean, that brings that cost per mile on the overhead coverage, down pretty low. And then, we've looked at, we're doing a huge addition right now. We're doubling the size of our terminal and adding a full service automatic truck wash.
Oh, wow.
Which has overhead, but should cover its own overhead, some different
Will
things.
this be for outside trucks too, or just?
Yeah, we're going to open it to the public.
Hopper washouts?
So we've been back and forth on that. We're hoping to find a way to do it. The problem is there's a lot of legalities whenever you go to actually washing content, into a drain.
Yeah.
So it's something we've got to look at and stuff. But I think we all hope that we can, figure out a way to do hopper washouts and reefer washouts, and because we're in a good place for it. I mean, there's lots of hopper and reefer customers down where we're at.
And not to talk, because I want you to get back to the main subject we were talking about, but like with the washouts, what was the idea behind that? Was it more internally, like we need to be doing this because we're spending a lot of time somewhere else, or like, hey, this could be a revenue generating opportunity?
So I think it started out because we used to have somebody hired that their only job was to wash truck and trailer every day. And we had a small kind of wash system plumbed into the shop that they could do that on. But it's not feasible once you hit, whenever we had 15 trucks, we still had 80 trailers. So by the time he got a quarter of the way through it, those were already dirty. I mean, you just never could catch up. So we went to a lot of Blue Beacon washes, since that time. And then it came down to, now we've got 35 trucks. We've got over 100 trailers. How are we going to maintain this? Because it's a huge Blue Beacon bill, to actually keep your trucks the way that we want them to look. So Mike found this company down in Little Rock, Arkansas, I think, that does a really, really nice job, has really good automatic wash systems. And so I think it probably kind of started of, hey, let's find a solution to keep our stuff clean. And then whenever we actually kind of looked at it, then it was, hey, this could be a legitimate, business to start and give everybody in the area a solution, because most of the guys in our area work through the week. They're home on weekends, or even if they're out 3 weeks at a time, then they're home on the weekend. And it's hard to find wash guys, in that area. So coming up with something that's open on the weekends, maybe 24 hours a day, we don't know yet, gives them an option to where maybe they buy a membership, and then not really membership, but, we just bill them monthly, it's kind of like Blue Beacon would do, something they can come in and punch in their number and come in and get a wash and then go back out on the road on their time instead of the wash guy's time.
Yeah. I think that's brilliant. Yeah, that's cool, man, to get to that number. And I think that's awesome that the company knows our goal is 50 trucks, and however, what are the steps we need to take? And I'm not saying all, but we try to push to our members a lot of times, but what's that next step? Where do you want to be? Set those numbers. I've done some podcasts where I tell people put a number down at the beginning of the year. Like, you may not hit it, but I guarantee you're going to get a lot closer to that number than if you don't do it. So I mean, it just goes down to goal setting and having that. But too many people, I think they're letting whatever the wind blows around, and they're not really disciplined. But if you have that goal in mind, man, it's just so much more attainable. We're going to kind of land the plane here, but just to overall kind of recap, if you could just tell our audience, like, if they're into that phase where they're looking to try to find an ops guy or gal, like, what would be your recommendation? What kind of person should they be looking for?
I think for sure you want somebody goal-oriented, somebody that can either set some goals or take the goals that are given to them and, really put them on the wall. A real target to look at. In trucking, they're gonna have to like long hours and phone calls at the middle of the night. And there's no sense in lying to those people about it. Like, that's the job. You're gonna get interrupted at dinner. You're going to get interrupted on the weekends, and it's just part of it. But, somebody that likes puzzles, I think is key.
That's good.
There's so many areas in trucking where we have found, hey, we can make an extra, 5 cents a mile doing something this way. But then you've got to figure out how that puzzle piece fits in. I think that's something that's pretty huge in that person, and they've got to be a people person. I mean, if your people don't like you, I don't think you're an operations manager. And I mean, there's always going to be times where they don't like you because you've laid something on them.
You're in the middle.
Do. Yeah. But for the most part, being able to have those tougher conversations with people and go, look, this is just the way it is. We've got to go this direction. And them, jumping on board with you and willing to go for that ride. That's the person you want. He or she or whatever, that's who you want. Somebody that can drive.
Yeah. I think the last thing I'll add, and I could hear when the stories you told, but like having someone that can communicate with upper management or the owner of the organization, that person trusts, but then also can communicate that vision down to the rest of the culture, because sometimes that owner is separated, not by design, but sometimes they can't be there all the time to push that to the rest of the organization. But finding that person that is goal-oriented, but really pushing or casting that vision and implementing it with the whole organization, I think is huge. So
it is huge. It is big. And mine and Mike's relationship, I mean, I don't know if many people have that kind of relationship, but I mean, Mike's been, a mentor. I mean, him and his wife are, second parents to me. We do holidays and birthdays together. My daughter calls them grandma and grandpa. Like, it's just, so we have that opportunity a lot more. Like, we can be anywhere, doing anything and have a small business talk and go, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Which has helped. And not that everybody can get to that level of relationship, but, making sure that relationship's strong definitely helps the company.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, one final last question, and I'm sure our audience is dying to know. Talk about that stash, man. Look at this.
So this is just a bet. This is all the mustache is. My younger brother, who, I told you is a firefighter here in Springfield, has had a mustache for a long time. And 2 Thanksgivings ago, like brothers do, you said you have a brother, you're either competing or fighting.
Oh, yeah.
That's the only 2 things
Absolutely.
with a brother.
Yeah.
And I've always, picked on him for having, a mustache and, asked him if he was still allowed within 100 yards of a school, and just picked on him about stuff. And he mouthed off that the only reason I mouthed him was because I couldn't grow one. And I said, all right, bet. So 2 Thanksgivings ago, I haven't, cut my mustache at all. And now we just rib each other on who's got the better mustache. So.
That's his?
No, he doesn't. He's got the big, thick Caterpillar.
Tom Selleck. Is that right? Yeah.
Tom Selleck looking mustache. So now we debate on which one's better, the Caterpillar or the Longhorn. So
I love it. So, Bo, hey, thank you so much for taking the time today, driving up here to be on the podcast. I got a lot of gold nuggets out of this. I'm sure our audience will. So, man, thank you so much. God bless
Absolutely.
you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Tyler, when I introduced Bo, I said Brock. Like you reminded me that's the quarterback.
You have football on your
football. Well, yeah, I mean, it's just coffee. I'm telling you, man. This thing, it's like I'm on overdrive right now. So,
That's good.
Yeah, sorry, Bo, for butchering the name. And but yeah, Brock Purdy is actually, I think they played against the Chiefs in San Francisco. So yeah, but yeah, a couple things. I'm just going to say, what do you think of that stash?
Dude,
if you could grow that stash.
Oh, 100%. My question is, do you have to have a permit to have something like that? to carry that thing around? I feel like, I don't know.
You command the room.
Yeah.
When you walk in with that stash, like, you were in control.
Just authority. You were telling us a story before we got this started about how you guys went out to a restaurant and just people coming up and just complimenting the staff.
Well, yeah, it was before the podcast. We had lunch briefly, and we're in there, and I can't remember if it was the waitress or the person that ordered, but they were like, "Man, love that stash," And he just said it in a confident. He was like, "Thank you," but I'm like, he probably gets that everywhere he goes, everywhere he walks. And I love the story behind it, that it was a bet with his brother, and now they're just continuing it with the, growing the stash.
Yeah, I wish I had those jeans. It's a good looking stash.
It's got that wax that, I don't know. I kept thinking of Captain Hook, but yeah, it is a awesome stash.
Yeah.
But yeah, a couple highlights. I love, probably the biggest takeaway that I want you to run with this one is having that open mindset that Bo, now when he goes to coworkers or people in the organization, it's not like, can I help you? It's what do you need help with?
Yeah.
And that's a different framework. Like when you say that, like they have to give you something that you can to help with.
Yeah. I like the mindset behind, because it's like, I'm going to help anyway. So unless you want me to butcher, what you're doing, show me how to do it. And then, it's just cool how he's saying like everyone in the company is cross-trained a little bit. And I think it's good just because everyone understands, like the accounting, or they're understanding, what the truck drivers are actually doing. The truck drivers are understanding, what goes into accounting and everything. So it's really cool just so everyone in the company understands what everyone's role is.
One thing I'll say about Bo, I've noticed in the 4 or 5 times I've communicated with him and we've sat down, he's very optimistic. And I think that's a character trait. Like, the guy, he's never complained about the industry. He's never complained about drivers. He's never complained about loads. And I think there's something to be said about that. He's not blaming or not, making excuses. And I think he's trying to figure out, hey, how do I make things better? If, these drivers are an integral part of our organization, what I need to keep that. All the coworkers. And I just, like I said, I think there's a lot to be said just in his mindset.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, because he, and I think it really speaks volumes to his team and how they're growing, with that positive attitude. And it's cool to hear that as big of a company as they are, they're still having some of the same struggles that, maybe a 3-truck operation has as far as, finding and retaining drivers, filling the trucks, just with drivers in general. It's cool to hear that there's still, even at that level, they still have a lot of the same struggles that, maybe a 1 or 2 truck guy has.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, Bo, thank you for coming on the podcast, man. Appreciate what you guys are doing down there. Again, he's a stone throw away down there in Purdy, Missouri. So we consider him a fellow 417 neighbor.
Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, a couple things before we get out of here. The conference is next week.
Yep. Yeah, we're getting really down to the wire. We still have a few tickets left. So if you want to get your tickets at bulkfreightconference.com, go on right now and secure your tickets. And we will love to see you there. You can go to bulkfreightconference.com and see the schedule, what we have lined up. We have lots of panels and speakers, and we have a really fun networking night that's going on. So April 24th through the 26th, we want to see you there here in Springfield.
I didn't even tell you I'm going to do this, but for the first 20 people that comment below on this podcast, we'll send you a free ticket. If you want a free ticket and you want to come, comment below. First 20 people that reply on the comments, we are going to send you an absolutely free ticket for you to attend. Dude, that covers all your drinks the first night, open bar, covers all your meals the next day, networking. Yeah. I mean, this thing probably, the ticket price is reasonable to begin with, but you're going to probably get, $500+ worth of just food, prizes, drinks, all that stuff. So we're going to give those to you. First 20 comment below. We'll send you a free
Awesome.
ticket.
Yeah, Joe will be watching, so make sure to get on there and comment, and
hurry
we'll
up.
get you some tickets.
Yeah, maybe 21. We'll see how many comments we can get.
All right.
So awesome. Yeah, make sure and come to the conference. We're super excited. I'm starting to get into my nervous phase. Starting to kind of think about some of the speaking things that I have to do. But I'm just so, because one thing I've realized is like our job isn't to really entertain, it's to bring people together. That's what BulkLoads does. We network people together, and we say our mindset, we have almost shifted, and this is going to be a little bit of my speech, but like we're in trucking, but really we're in the hospitality business. BulkLoads is. And I want you to think about that in your business. What business are you really in? But we're really about bringing people in, giving them exceptional customer service, and getting them connected with the right people.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, awesome. Get to the conference. Anything else before we close out of here?
Yeah, Jared, it's April 10th right now, which first quarter IFTAs are due at the end of the month. I know a lot of people have already filed their IFTAs, but if you still need to file them and you don't have the time, you don't want to worry about it, I know it's a headache dealing with all the paperwork, trying to get it all together. We will do it for you. BulkLoads now has permitting services. You can check us out, BulkLoads.com. There's a permitting tab on there, or you can just simply email support@BulkLoads.com. Tanner Batten in here is leading up that arm, and he's doing a really good job. A lot of people have already came to us just asking if we can go ahead and do their IFTAs, which he's already doing. So if you would like us to handle that for you, definitely get in contact with us.
I will say this, even if you just have a question about compliance or FMCSA, Tanner, man, he has a wealth of knowledge with this. And then he has a team that, they've been doing this for 40 plus years of experience. So, and that's free. If you have a question, if something, you're struggling with compliance or the back end paperwork, anything of that, just give us a ring and we'll see if we can help you. If anything, we can give you some advice to go. We may not be able to help you with what that need is, but man, Tanner was telling me stories of people calling in and them getting them the right answers they needed, and just stuff that we've learned from the FMCSA. So it's a complicated process. I can't even fathom calling the FMCSA and getting through. Tanner, for some reason, loves it. And
he's good at it too.
It's his spiritual gift.
Yeah, exactly.
So awesome. Last but not least, before we head out of here, a lot of our people listening to this podcast don't subscribe. You will see a little bell down in the corner. Just simply click on that bell and be subscribed. We'd also love if you'd share this with others out there in the community. I'll be shameless. We just want to get this in the hands of more people. People, all podcasts, they always say, can you, share this? We want you to share it because we want to show more people our podcast, hopefully show them our services. So I don't want to say other tthan that. We want to get more people to see who we are out there. So please share this if we can ask that one favor from you.
Awesome. Yeah.
So awesome. We're going to close out of here in prayer. If you do have a prayer request, send it to prayer@BulkLoads.com. Our meeting this morning, we were just talking about this, struggles that are family-wise, business-wise. We want to hear them all. There's no prayer too small. And if you have a prayer, send it to prayer@BulkLoads.com. We would love to be praying for you. Anything out there, it is anonymous. And man, we would love to do that. So awesome. I'll close this out here. Father God, we love you, Lord. We thank you for this week, Lord. We thank you for this great community we get to serve, both in agriculture and in trucking. Lord, just be with our clients and members and teammates and employees this week and as they go about. Lord, just as we, next week, as we get to our conference, Lord, we just pray that you be a part of it, Lord, that people will come and network with others out there, Lord, that they will feel free to network and meet those people to help grow their business, but just really more importantly, to develop stronger personal relationships with others in this community, Lord. Just be upon our conference. God, we thank you for all that you do in your heavenly and precious name. Amen. Thank you as always for listening to the BulkLoads Podcast. God bless.